Hey, PJ here, and I want to talk a little bit about comfort zones. So if you see this chart here in the middle is your comfort zone. And everybody has a different size comfort zone, so this is just a general chart. So this circle would be really big for a Navy SEAL, or it would be really small for somebody who plays video games all day, lives in a thermostat controlled environment, and orders pizza to be delivered to them. So this whole thing is relative to the person, but the size of this inner circle doesn't matter. It's just the illustration of the whole concept that we're going to talk about. When you stay within your comfort zone, change never happens. And I'm talking mostly about fitness because people who do really easy workouts maybe change a little bit at first, but don't see much change after that. And then they just kind of plateau for years and years, never really get anywhere. And this chart is going to explain why that happens. If you want results, you're going to have to get out of this circle. And the next biggest circle outside of that circle is things like your typical gym elliptical workout. And these are the people that you see at the big box gyms on the elliptical, watching the big TV that's mounted on the wall or reading a book and not really breathing hard or ever getting a sweat out. They're just doing it because they have a low pain tolerance or they just don't know any better. Then you go a little bit above that, and here's the people that do brisk walking. And then you go a little bit above that, and these are the people that do Zumba. Go a little bit above that, and this is the jogging intensity. So this is your first circle here. You get up to about 70% perceived exertion, and that's judged on you. That's why it's called perceived exertion. So when you get in this ring, it's about 70%. And you can go to up to 60% of perceived exertion and still stay in your comfort zone and not get results. But once you start going to about 70%, then you start getting results. So the way to gauge your perceived exertion is just to ask yourself, what kind of effort is this out of 0 to 10? 0 meaning you're asleep, no effort, and 10 meaning you're pushing as hard as you possibly can. Well, things like the gym elliptical, Zumba, jogging, none of that's really hard. So that's about 70%. In this circle here, you're going to get some results, but with fast adaptation, meaning you're going to have to mix up your routine regularly, or you're going to plateau, adapt, and stop getting results at the particular intensity that you're doing with one of these things as an example, or something else that's also 70% perceived exertion. If you're familiar with xgym, there's an arrow to explain things over here, but we're going to get to that later. So the next arrow out is 80% perceived exertion. This is things like running, high intensity strength training, high intensity interval training. And in this circle, you're going to get significant results with medium adaptation. So you're still going to have to mix things up because you still can adapt to this because it's only 80% exertion. And if you're doing high intensity training, this is the circle where you're lifting weights long enough and intense enough that you get to concentric failure, meaning your muscles fail on the lifting phase on the way up. Now, we go out to the next circle. This is competitive athlete intensity. These are all pretty big jumps. And this is 90% perceived exertion. So you're pushing really hard on most of your workouts. You're going to get rapid results with slow adaptation. So with this kind of intensity, it's going to be hard for your body to adapt, but it still can if you're doing the same thing for long enough. Now, if you're lifting weights, high intensity strength training, at this intensity, you're going to go past concentric failure, the lifting phase failure, into isometric failure, where you can't even hold it still. Gravity starts to suck it down, and you can't even hold it there because it's so intense at this level. Then, if you're going to break out of this competitive athlete intensity, I mean, this is an amateur athlete. This isn't somebody who's making money. Then you go out of this into the unicorn zone out here where crazy results happen. This is Olympic athlete intensity. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete, but it's that kind of intensity. You're going to 100% perceived exertion often in your workouts. For the example of strength training with lifting weights, you're going to get to eccentric failure. So you're past concentric, you're past isometric, you can't even hold it there, and you can't even fight it on the way down on your last rep. So people are helping you, or some sort of machine is helping that up so you can fight it on the way down, and you just can't even do that anymore. Crazy intensity can be done safely in the right way, but this is where you get amazing results with very little adaptation, because this kind of intensity is very resistant to plateaus in adaptation. These are insane results when you get even further out from that whole concentric circle system with rare adaptation. If you really push past this level to get further out of that comfort zone to this level, and you could potentially become adapted, but only if the routine never changes. But you could do the same routine for a really long time at this intensity out at the edge out here and not adapt for a really long time. So plateaus are rare. And the results are so fast out here because you're willing to go so far out of your comfort zone that you earn crazy unicorn zone results. Very few people can do this. It has to happen over time as your pain tolerance changes and you build that along the way. Now we're going to go up to this red arrow. Xgym workouts take people out there. Beginners won't be able to get all the way out there, but people who've been with the xgym for a few months can get to that point that soon. But it still depends on personality, pain tolerance, how you were raised, all that kind of stuff. So a Navy SEAL working out at the xgym may already be there, or it might take him a month to get all the way out there. But somebody like that is going to get there really fast. For the gamer example, who has grown up in his parents' basement, thermostat controlled environment, everything done for him, has spent most of his life on the couch, super comfortable, food is brought to him. He may never get out there. It would be tough to program his brain because of those deep ingrained comfort patterns, but it's still possible. So when someone comes into the X gym, they get out of their car and they walk in, they're still in their comfort zone. Then we start an exercise and we stay in contraction, which is time under tension. So we're never resting ever, even between reps. So we keep that time under tension going through this first inner ring. And by the time they're around here, it's uncomfortable and it starts to burn. And then in this ring, they get to the concentric failure, which is about 80%. And then they keep going, gets more intense. And then they get to isometric failure, which is complete muscle fatigue. So they can't lift it up and they can't even hold it still. It's going to be sinking down, whether they're using elastic tubing, carpet sliders, a weight, or suspension training with their body. They're sinking down, they're fighting it. Then we use their splinter techniques to get them past that out into the unicorn zone where they can't even fight it anymore. So now we're going to have to drop the weight. If they're tubing, we're going to have to move them forward to the anchor. Carpet sliders, maybe we're going to kick those off so they can be on the floor with more friction. And the splinters are going to take them outside of this into the unicorn zone. And that's why people at xgym get results so fast. As I said, it might take someone a few months to get there. Some people may never get there. But look, even if they're trapped in here for forever, because they're that gamer who just can't seem to muster up the mental fortitude to ever get out here. Even if we get them just to here where it burns, but they never get complete muscle fatigue, they're still going to get significant results, but they're not going to have to worry about adaptation because we're changing their routine every month if they're in group and every 14 workouts if they're in one-on-one training. And by changing the routine, I mean we're changing the exercises and the method, the way that they're actually doing the rep. Both are changing. So it's changing for the nerves, the brain, and for the muscles so they can adapt. So even somebody who's stuck in this circle, and we have some people at xgym who are stuck in this circle, who have been with us for years and are still getting results. Slower results than the people that can get out here in the unicorn zone, but they're still plugging along with consistent results. Even people in here, we have some people in their 90s. We have some people that just have a lower pain tolerance and they're never going to change. They're stuck in here. They're still going to get some results. That kind of person with that kind of intensity would not get results at a traditional gym. They would plateau. They would get to a certain low level of fitness and strength and just stay there for forever. But these people have more hope because when they're stuck in this circle, they can still get results and continue to improve because we're switching their program up a lot. So even for them, it's going to be great. But we have very few of these people. We have more of these people. We have lots of these people, and then it goes down again. So the bell curve starts to come down out in the unicorn zone, but people will learn over time how to do this. And then they're just seeing crazy fast results. There is a place for everybody, no matter where they are, where they're starting, or where they can go. It doesn't matter because we meet people where they are and we give them the results they are capable of as we push them to the edge of their envelope. And when we do that, we're stretching out their envelope and their comfort zone and helping them push further and further away from their comfort zone so they get a bigger envelope in that workout, and then they leave with that bigger envelope, and then they come back for the next workout with that bigger envelope, and we stretch that one out. So that's how people eventually get out further into more concentric circles. So that's how this whole thing works. Any questions? Go to xgym.com and you'll find all the contact info and let me know how I can help.